Hey everyone, my name is Ash Shukla, and I'd like to say namaste and welcome to my podcast, Financial Chakras Abundance Through Alignment. My friend, today we are truly going to get aligned. I'm so excited about this podcast today because I've been looking forward to. I met this person on, on one of the platforms, and him and I we had a pre call, and I was just stoked meeting him. He has been doing. He was a financial advisor, just like I was, so we connected right away, and most importantly, he has been doing this podcasting for many years, and he just took that on, I gave him my hat. I gave him my salute. Okay. When I saw the numbers, he has over 1.5 million followers and downloads. Like, he does such an amazing. He does 1,500 shows every single year himself, not his team, not somebody else comes on, but he does 1,500 shows a year. And I just wanted to, like, really just pick his brain today and learn, how do you make money from podcasting and how do you create profitable podcasting. And by the way, when you like this, be sure to comment, subscribe, and share this podcast. I would highly appreciate you. As you know, it is my wish to the universe that may it give you all the health, wealth, and happiness that you deserve. Namaste, and let's welcome Adam Torres on the stage. Hi, Adam. How you doing, buddy?
Well, first off, in that intro, you said I've been doing this many years. What are you trying to say? I'm old over here, Ash? You better watch it with that, bringing me on the show and telling me that. What? How's that any way to treat your guest? No.
I mean, you're experienced.
Oh, that's even worse. Thank you. No, I'm just no,
You're so welcome.
it's really a pleasure to be on here, though. I've been looking forward to, and I love the brand Financial Chakras and the concept of this intersection between finance, spirituality, wholeness, like a holistic lifestyle, and thinking about different sides of your well-being overall. Man, I just think it's a great concept, and we need it out there. That's what I'm talking about. We need money, but we also need health.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much. I really appreciate you for
Eh,
being here. And yes, I agree with you that we do need the holistic wealth. Absolutely,
mhm.
we need that, right? And I want to say thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. And yes, I'm gonna ask you now, since we're talking. So
Yeah.
I wanted to start the process of, let's start with a journey of
Mhm.
when you got started in podcasting, or what were you doing before that, and what
Yeah.
really made you shift over to podcasting?
Yeah. Well, first off, I think I like to say I get a little bit too much credit. So I was a financial advisor. Now, when people see what I do now, maybe I get a little bit of credit because, I've been putting in the work for 9 years now. I've done over 6,000 interviews. And really, what it comes down to is I put out 40 years of content every year. So that's the numbers. But essentially, I wasn't experienced, and I didn't have any ideas of going into the of going into the entertainment industry from finance. I was super satisfied in corporate America. I did very well in all of my corporate gigs as a financial advisor and eventually having my own RIA. And I loved it. I loved helping people. I love the concept. I love, stewarding assets and helping and watching generations benefit from that and planning somebody's college and all those. I loved all of that. So my story isn't one of the like corporate person who had to go out and be an entrepreneur or things like that, or was like bucking the system. That just wasn't me. If that's you and you're listening to this, okay. I just can't relate. I loved corporate America. When I went to be an entrepreneur, I call myself an accidental entrepreneur. And the last book that I released called Driven, I actually talk about myself as an accidental entrepreneur. And there's one other co-author in that book, and he was a serial entrepreneur. So it's kind of a funny book from the standpoint of usually two people don't come together to write a book that have opposing opinions, but that's kind of what we did. And so both sides are addressed. But my transition from finance to podcasting full time and to media full time, really, it wasn't something that was planned. It was kind of one of those things that I think it's definitely a lot of it's divine. So God blessed me and allowed me to do this, number one. And maybe from being a financial advisor, I had somewhat of a little bit of a personality that allowed me to connect with people, right? Because if you don't connect with people, they're probably not going to invest with you. Like, probably not going to happen if you can't connect. But really, I mean, me doing this and going this route, it wasn't planned. It was one of those things that was very holistic, and it grew over time. Again, like I mentioned, 9 years later, right?
I love that, my friend. So 9 years is many, many years, just FYI. But that
Ah,
being said,
you
you know,
got me. I was waiting for you. I knew you weren't gonna leave that. Go ahead.
but anyways, I appreciate that very much. But I did want to find out. So, what did you, in terms of like your personal life is
Yeah,
concerned?
yeah,
So tell us a little bit about you, where you're from,
yeah, yeah.
and and let's start with that.
So I'm and even before like when I got into finance, I'll tell you like my how I got into finance, I was 16 years old and I was working at Raymond James and Company in their IRA department. And how'd I do that and why'd I do that? Well, my parents, my dad was a small business owner, my mom was a social worker, and I just always had kind of like this thought process around like, how do we make some money? Like talk about business. And one of the best things my parents did was they didn't give me false advice based on how they thought the world worked. Actually, they told me, "Hey, Adam, I don't know. Like we don't actually know." My dad was like, "Hey, I'm just a small business owner. Like I don't really know how to grow a business or do these things. If you want that kind of like knowledge, you're gonna have to go somewhere else." So he knew what he didn't know, and so that's
Mhm.
how I originally got into finance, and that's how I originally went. I'm from the Midwest, from Michigan, and that's how I originally got into finance and went to school, and then all that other good stuff. And then when I got done with college, I started in my financial advisory career, and really never looked back until I got into media.
I love that, my friend. So
Yeah,
what you're saying is that like you don't have to have successful past from your parenthood to really be successful. Many
yeah,
people have this myth or belief that I didn't grow up that way or I didn't have any money, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
so and that creates a self doubt in themselves and say, you know what, it's a questionable thing. Am I good enough,
Mm,
or am I worthy of
yeah,
success and things like that? But you didn't
yeah,
go into that. Your dad told you that, I don't know, but and then you got into money, and
mm,
now you're making more money. So it's a
yeah,
money and more money basically. But that's
yeah,
a good thing. My
yeah.
question to you then is, as you're doing this, a podcasting, because a lot of people, want to learn how to do podcasting, and I
Hmm.
really respect you for that because doing 6,000 interviews is a lot of interviews. I mean,
Yeah.
you inspire me to do more interviews. Just so you know,
That's right, Ash. You gotta, man, stop being so lazy over there. Get in the game, man. You better tell your wife you need a couple more hours off to do some podcasts. You can be like, why'd I let you interview that guy? Come
yeah,
on, man.
yeah. That's so funny. But that being said, so those who are looking to get into
Hmm.
podcasting, right? What would you say to them,
Yeah,
especially because they're just looking to get started? There
sure.
are doubts around that, and they've tried all kinds of marketing systems, right? If you
Yeah.
will, and like they're really, really are trying and trying to make
Hmm.
money, and they're just not able to. So my question to you is that,
Yeah.
what would you say to them?
Well, the first thing is somebody has to really do a self-assessment on like what are they really trying to get out of this?
Right.
Like, they gotta really think about what they're trying to get out of podcasting and this business in general. So,
Yeah.
and then also what they're going to give up for that. So a lot of times it's not actually money. It's just a matter of, because now the tools and things like that from when I started versus now, I mean, it's cheap. I mean, there's services that are so inexpensive to get your show started and other things like that. Or you can use an agency. You can do a lot of different things. I mean, in order to get your show started. But really, it just comes down to your expectations. Like, what do you want out of this? Like, I know when I started and when I began in my career for this, I took it as serious as I took my financial advisory practice. So I was like, hey, what are the numbers? Like, I don't know anything about this, but what are the numbers? So what I did was I went back and I studied. So when I was a financial advisor, we had to study for our series 7, 6, 63, our insurance license. I had my CFP. So I calculate I probably studied and took exams for maybe 8 to 10,000 pages of content. So when
Hmm.
I went into entertainment full time and I said, "Hey, I'm going to do this," what I realized pretty quickly was like this is like I went back and I was like, "All right, I got to take this just as serious as I took getting my licenses. So I'm not going to take this. I want to make sure that this isn't one of those things that I'm going to leave up to chance." So I went back, studied the industry, and I found. Um, one common theme around among like the greats. And who do I consider the greats? I mean the Larry Kings of the world, or Larry King, I mean the Oprah, Johnny Carson. And when you go far back, like all of these people that are like really done something. Number one, they had like 30,000 plus interviews they'd done in their career. And I was like,
Wow.
whoa, that's a lot. I was like 30,000, right? And then number two, they look at it differently than somebody that starts a podcast. Part of the reason why, and for most people, part of the reason why a lot of podcasters fail is because they have no perspective. Like if you think about it, I'm 9 years in, but 9 years in on an entertainment career means that you're like a baby. You're like in middle
Hmm.
school. Like they were doing it for 20, 30 years. Look at somebody like a Steve Harvey. Like how many years he's going on? What, 40 years in
Well, yeah.
entertainment or something? Like that's insane. So if we were to judge a Steve Harvey or somebody else based off his first 9 years, like it probably wouldn't be like you wouldn't know who he was going to be nowadays, right?
Right. Right.
So when you have some perspective in your career overall for this, now that's going to allow you to kind of decide where you want to fall on that pyramid of success within this business. So once you have some expectations like that, you understand it's not a sprint. Like it's
No.
not a sprint. I hear people all the time, like they're like, "Oh yeah, my show's not growing or this or that." And I'm like, "Oh, really? How long you been doing it?" 2 years. Okay, great. How many episodes you got out there? Like 100. I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome." So you're almost out of kindergarten. or preschool with 100
Yeah.
episodes. You're talking
Yeah.
about preschool. I'm
Yeah.
like, you're a baby. Like I'm a baby. I haven't even began like what's going to actually happen with my perspective, because the way I look at it is with longevity, health, my genes, DNA, God willing, I'm going to be 100 years old plus, and in our generation of the time we're living. And if that's the case, man, I'm going to be a centenarian podcaster. Why? Because at what point in my life am I ever not going to want to have at least one conversation with somebody interesting once a week over a Zoom or virtual call? When?
Yeah.
Never.
Never.
Assuming I
Never.
assuming I can. So now when we think about that way, I'm not planning the next 10 years, the next 20. I'm thinking about the next 40 years of my show. And when you do
Mm.
that, all the pressure's off. There's no pressure.
Absolutely.
There's no
Uh,
pressure. And let me give you something else here. And this is for myself, this is true, but this is also true for you, Ash, and for anybody else that's listening to this. We actually have an advantage on the entertainers from the past because of distribution. So think about it this way. I mean, first off, when I say this name, I'm not saying I hold a candle to her talent or anything else or anybody else, but I'm just using it just for numbers and for an example. But think about like an Oprah. Oprah's amazing. She's got, 30,000 plus interviews she's done in her career. But all of the early days in her career, guess what? You can't Google and find those interviews. Why? Because they didn't have the distribution we did on podcasts and other things. There
mm.
was no Apple or Spotify or this or that. So believe it or not, we have an advantage on Oprah. It's crazy
Mm.
to think about. So now for myself, like I know what my path is. My aim and my goal is I want to definitely get over that 30,000 interview mark, but I'm not going to stop there. One day I want to have 50,000 interviews in my lifetime. Like that's how far out I'm planning. And so if that's the case, then I will be one of, if not the person with the largest public catalog of interviews that you can find online, that's free content that's ever been done in the history of entertainment. So that's how I'm planning out. But that's like, I mean, that's a longer plan. So to get back to your question, it's all about expectations. It's all about expectations. So now let's assume that you're listening to this show and you're like, okay, Adam, I get it. I need to do a real self-assessment and see what I actually want out of this. Is this a hobby? Is this something that you just want to make a little side cash in? Is this something that you want to pass down to your kids for legacy and you don't even care about the money, but you want to have something that you could pass your knowledge down to your heirs and to your grandkids and to your great grandkids, that who knows, great grandkids that maybe you don't live to see, but you want them to know some of the things that were taking place in your lifetime and some of your knowledge. I wish I could see what my grandfather was thinking back in the day. Amazing if he would have had a podcast and that exists. And maybe you're doing it because you come from, a city or a town or an ethnicity or a race where, in the past, maybe your history was wiped out, and you don't
Yeah.
and it has been, and it's done over and over and over in time, because this is the first time in history where we all, for the most part, depending on where you're at, I'm not claiming everybody has access to a phone, or everybody has, but a lot of individuals, I should say, especially if you're in the United States specifically, you can be a part of writing your history and your story. First time ever. Never was like that. Even and even in free countries, it doesn't matter. Like, just the technology wasn't there.
Yeah.
So to not take advantage of that, I mean, there's so many layers in this, that the first thing someone has to do is they got to figure out what they want from this game.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that for a second, right? Because so what I want you to do, those of you who are listening to this, I want you to know that where Adam is coming from is that he decided obviously his vision, what he wanted to do, but I guarantee you he didn't think about what I'm about to ask him. So I'm gonna ask you, Adam. So at the
Mm,
end of this game, when you're done with this 30,000 podcasts or 100,000 podcasts or whatever the end game is, right?
mm.
What feeling you want to have when you are done with this game?
Oh, I have thought about that, and I've visualized it. So I will be a failure if I'm the last person to ever host these Mission Matters shows. This is about creating opportunity for others to share their story. This
Yeah.
isn't about, like, look at me as a host. So
Okay.
I will be a failure if I don't have others that are taking over these shows and keeping on the legacy, not of me, by the way, but of hopefully inspiring others to take part and share in their story. Like, that's the
Okay.
point, and that's the way we build the platform. And by the way, that's also the way we make our financial decisions. And I'll give you an example. If myself and the other co-founder Shirag were interested in, which I'm not against this for anybody that's listening, so I'm not ragging on it, it's just not our vision. If we wanted to just be like an influencer brand, and we want everybody to know who Adam is and like this special person, blah blah blah, which that's not what we're trying to do here, then what we would do is we would just take all the money we make, all the revenue, the marketing from all of our profit centers, and we just put that into pumping out the content and more advertising, so that everybody would know who I am. But we don't do that. Instead, we invest our dollars on building the platform and the infrastructure so that we can help others launch their shows, and so that we can
Mhm.
elevate the voices of others, and so that we can hold events and conferences and create opportunities for others to share their voices. That's a lot more risky of a business model. It's a lot more complicated. It's a lot more labor intensive. It's a lot easier just to take that money, reinvest it in some ads, and make sure that everybody knows who I am. But that's not where our heart's at. So when I
Yeah.
say, like, what's that feeling that I want at the end? I want to watch somebody else hosting these shows, and I want to have the feeling of, like, okay, we created something that's going to last, not for me, but for the world. Because my aim and my goal, I look at myself, I'm kind of like I'm kind of documenting, just creating this brain trust and documenting some of the stories that are happening in my lifetime. And hopefully that opportunity will, God willing, be passed on to the next hosts of the different shows that I host, and they'll be able to do the same and carry that on for that generation.
Okay. So as you're talking right now, I want you to think about this, Adam. Right?
Hmm.
The words that came to me for as you were saying, serving was one word that came to me as you talked about that. The second word that came to me was impact.
Hmm.
Like, that was the second word that came to me, right? So if you were to say, so what you did was over there, very, you did very tactfully, obviously, then, you coming from your heart, and you're really coming from the space of like just serving, right? And if you don't know, your third eye chakra is
Hmm.
really about serving. So you're coming from the space of like truly serving and making an impact, right? And so I love that, by the way. So because many times when you're doing something, most people don't think about that, right? They just want to
Hmm.
do something because they want to make quick money. And
Yeah.
at least what I find is that when you're trying to just make quick buck, right, and you're just trying to hustle, if you will, just trying to, people can sense that. And then,
Hmm.
money, the flow of cash, goes away from you, right? The
Yeah.
flow of financial flow really, it goes away from you. Instead of coming to you, it
Mm.
begins to repel, right? So what would you say to podcasters who are really just desperate, right, to get this going, or they're doing it because it's a gimmick, right? There's a lot of times you
Mm.
see that in the podcasting, well, what would you say to them to not do, and what would you say to do for them?
Well, there's only one thing that anybody needs to do, really. And this is the is and it's like any other business. You just need to figure out how you're going to add value. That's it.
That's
Like,
it.
I'll give you an example. If you think about, like very, very early in my career and what we were doing, before we had any audience, people were like, "Oh, numbers," or "You did this," or "You did that," and people tell me all the time how they can't monetize their show. And I'm not going to ask you this question, Ash, but if you want to answer it, you're welcome to. So this for the audience though, if somebody out there is listening to this and you haven't monetized your show yet, my question to you is, how many people have you asked to sponsor your show?
That's a great
No,
question.
nobody asked. Nobody asked. And it
Right.
cracks me up because I'm like, wait a minute, why not? Well, I don't have enough downloads or this, that. And I'm like, look, you're out here creating content. You're out there, like, do you don't have any friends?
Hmm.
Like, if you don't have any friends, you got a bigger problem than a podcast. I know this. When I started out, I was hitting up my college frat bros, anybody that listen, hey man, $50. I'm trying to get this thing off the ground. I'll put your logo on there. We don't have a big audience, but I'm working hard and I'm going to keep on trying to add more value and do whatever I can do. I would go to their events. I would go hand out cards. I would put their branding on. Whatever I had to do, I'm gonna add value. But if you've earned $0, it's because you haven't asked for any money from anyone.
Mm.
How hard is it to create a sponsorship package and say, hey, guess what? This is our lead sponsor. And then you talk about them and say, hey, we got an audience of 10 people and we're going to grow. And I appreciate our lead sponsor for doing this because every dollar helps me put on this show and it helps fuel the dream. I'm glad they believe in me. I'm glad that the 10 people that are listening to this show right now believe in me and stick with me. Like, I want you rooting for me. I don't know everything I'm doing right now, but I'm going to keep trying and I appreciate it. I appreciate you listening. And to our sponsor, hey, I appreciate you. And if you do have a need for this plumbing service, this CPA service, this lawyer service, this start your LLC service, whatever your thing is, then hey, do business with them because they're supporting me and I'm just getting started.
Yeah.
Who does
And
that? Nobody
no,
does. So I'm like,
no.
if you did that, then my next question is, how many times? If you got 100 people, and you ask all 100 for $50 to sponsor an episode, you ain't. If one person out of that 50, out of that 100 doesn't give you a $50, you better ask your mom, your cousin, your uncle, somebody owns a business and believes in you. And if not, then you got to do some self reflection on that one. And if you don't have it, it's okay, but ask another 100.
Yeah.
You gotta really ask yourself, like,
Yeah.
how, like, I'll give you a story. So Jay Leno, when it was back in the Tonight Show days, when he was just, even though it's the largest platform back then, he would go and he would make friends and he would travel endlessly to all of the affiliates that were picking up his shows, the TV stations that were picking up the distribution for the Tonight Show because he was the new guy. And so guess
Mm.
what? Even he was doing that at the biggest level there is back in his day. So, like, for
Whoa.
a podcast host that's out there, what you got to understand is to sell sponsorships not easy, and it's a real relationship. But you got to ask. If you're not asking, and that's the first thing I say is like, you want to monetize, you want to sponsor. How many people have you asked? Zero.
Yeah.
Oh, well, then guess why you haven't monetized? Because you
That's
haven't
right.
asked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Well, I
you've
will.
asked 10 people and you got $0. What do you want? A
Yeah.
cookie?
Cookie.
Trying to,
Yeah.
but you're a
Yeah.
financial advisor, Ash, so you get that.
I
Like you, or
100%
when you
get
were,
that.
when you were, imagine if you were, excuse me, when you were, I don't believe you're managing actively
No.
right now, but when you were, if you were to ask 10 people to invest in you and all 10 said no, what would you do?
I ask more people.
Or
Yeah.
else you're not going to eat.
Yeah.
so,
Exactly.
so
Like
this is the same exact thing.
exactly.
So if you're not cut out to ask, then it's going to be hard for you to get
Yeah.
sponsors. But you got to
Yeah.
ask. You got to get over it, and you got to ask yourself, how bad do you want this? And if
Yeah.
you want it bad enough, then you're going to ask more people, and you're going to find ways to add value.
Yeah. And those of you who are listening, I want you to know that you might be listening, and you might have this belief system. So it's like this: as far as money is concerned, as far as your life is concerned, as far as anything is concerned, you're looking to go four ways. Okay, one, the definitive thing that you're trying to do is always go up, meaning looking to improve. But what happens with most people is either you're going sideways, or you're going downwards, or you are just stuck wherever you are. These are the three most common scenarios that I find. And the
Mhm.
reason being is you have inner belief in your root chakra, in your base of your spine. There's a thing called like uncertainty. That's one
Mhm.
thing that's holding you back. The second emotion that's holding you back, right, is fear and anxiety, which resides at the base of your spine. So when that is
Mhm.
going on, but at the same time, what most people don't get to recognize, Adam, is there is actually one beautiful frequency that stays there. It's called certainty, right? And
Mm.
safety. And what happens is most people just want to stay safe
Yeah.
and safety, and they don't want to leave their safety net and say, ask somebody, just ask somebody. Like it's
Yeah.
literally that simple. I mean, I'll give you, Adam, like, uh, so to be candid with you,
Mhm.
right, until this point, right, I did not
Mhm.
ask anybody to sponsor, and
Yep.
not because I don't want to or not because I cannot. It's because my strategy was a little different. then
Mhm.
then we ended up talking, right, and then I'm like, okay, it is a good idea, right? So it is a good idea to have the sponsors, because I mean, I can get paid first and then I can get paid later, like more, right? In terms of clientele acquisition is concerned. And
Mhm.
so I was at a networking event literally yesterday, and I ran into this guy. They own a family insurance practice,
Mm.
right? And literally, it's a husband, wife, daughter, and son. Like it's a small insurance practice. And I asked, his son was there, the
Yeah.
rest of the family wasn't there, but I said, would you guys, how would you guys like to be on my podcast? And I told
Mm.
them my little bit of my stats, teeny tiny stats I do have.
Yeah.
And he's like, I would be happy to sponsor that. It was like literally a simple $500 transaction, but
Yep.
it's a transaction that happened like that. And if
Yep.
somebody literally is struggling with money, I think that is so crucial to,
Mhm.
even if you charge $200 or $100 or
Yep. Yep.
$50, right?
Yep.
Imagine you did 10 shows or five
Yep.
shows a week. That gets you cash flow in the door, predictable cash flow. Would you agree with that, or
Mm.
am I just
Well,
making
well,
it
I
up?
guess. Well, the first thing is, where's my cut, man? Where's my consulting fee?
You can take the whole
I'm
thing.
just playing. No, 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 no. I'm just playing, Ash. I had to. I'm
Yeah,
like, what's going on over here? Where's my affiliate fee? No.
that.
So
Uh,
everybody, I mean, this is the thing. And I have this conversation pretty often, and it's scarcity versus abundance, but it's not when it comes to money specifically. It comes to creating. I always tell people, I'm like, "Y- you can't do another interview? Like, what
yeah,
you said 50, you said 100, you said 500, like you can't do another interview. It's like, oh wait, that's the last interview I can do. Like I got to maximize the value, or what are you talking about? Like it's endless. And when you think, so if you think about it from that standpoint, then it's just how much you're willing to work. My
yeah.
my record is 91 interviews in 1 week. I
Whoa.
averaged 70 plus interviews a week for years. And I mean, like, I think my record of interviews straight at one point was like 280 something days straight. So like, when people tell me about like price and this and that, it's not dollar. Think value. Like think
Mm,
value. Like how are you bringing value to your client, and how are you bringing value to the world? So if you wanted to, like, just throwing this out there, so like you could take it as, okay, that was a simple thing, or the next thing you could do is maybe that particular sponsor wants to hold an event. Maybe they want to hold an event, and maybe it can be around financial chakras, and you can fill up a room and
yeah,
they could speak for 5 minutes, and
yeah,
you find other ways to find out value. Or maybe they just wanted to do that one episode and they're done, and that's fine. That's okay. But guess what? How many more can you get that are just like them? You said
yeah.
it, the niche was insurance. How many insurance individuals would want to come on your show that are in the entire United States? Come on. Like,
Come
how
on.
much money are you looking to make? That's the question.
The
Figure it
question.
out.
Yeah, absolutely. And just so you know, if you want, my friend, you can have 100% commission from this or 100%
No, no,
affiliate fee. I have
I'm
no
not
problem
doing
with that.
that. No,
Okay.
we
But
pay it forward to you. You sponsor somebody else, do that. That'll help me more. Is you pass
okay.
on the, like, it's kind of like paying it, what do they say? Paying it backwards. My good buddy Mark Mears, if he says paying it backwards, and every time he says it, that reminds me whenever I talk to him, I'm like, oh, I gotta do that. And what he does is when you go to the drive-in or some drive-through, excuse me, like a Starbucks or something like that, he always pays for the person behind them. So when you go through the Starbucks next time, drive through or something, ask, just buy somebody a coffee, pay for the person behind you, and I'll be happy.
Done, 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 done. Done
Move
deal,
that
buddy.
energy. Money's energy, right?
Eh,
Move that energy. Help me like do that.
Okay, done, buddy. Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. And truly it is, right? Because and that's why so those who is looking to, so now let's say that okay, they made a decision, right?
Yep, yep.
The first thing is make a decision. Okay.
Hmm.
Just know that, just be grounded in a sense of like knowing
And
that it
don't
is
beat
safe.
yourself up if you're not, if you want to be a hobbyist, it's okay. Like that's fine. Like don't beat yourself up. You have to be realistic. I didn't like start wanting to be full time. I was just starting doing it as a, did some work and did some interviews, and it started to grow, and then I knew what I was at. And so that level of confidence and clarity took time to happen. It's not like you're going to watch this and be like, okay, I want to do this and I'm going to dedicate my life to it. If you do that, that's a quick decision that probably isn't going to be stuck to. If you're so everybody's at a different point in their journey. So don't beat yourself up. Like give yourself some space too.
Yeah, and I would say, what would you say to those who really want to be perfect, before they get started?
I that's not just not I can't even relate. I'm sorry. I just don't understand it. I can't relate. My first show I just can't, I can relate like 0%. My
Yeah,
first show, I did my first 300 interviews on my cell phone. It wasn't even edited. I think if we can call that a show, it was more likely called like phone calls taped by Adam and uploaded without editing because he didn't even know what a podcast was. You can call it that. That could have been the name of the show and it would have been true.
yeah,
And we built an audience though from those 300. But just like how I talk to sponsors and how I say, believe in me, I'm going to keep doing this. This is my vision. If you're on board, man, I'd love to have some sponsorship dollars to help me keep this dream alive. That's how I would talk to my audience in the beginning. And even now, I'm like, man, I did, I think 12 interviews today. This is my 13th one. And I'm like looking at it and I'm like, I probably like, 10 of those were good. My bad on the other two. And I hope this one's all right. No, like I miss every day. I miss it once, at least once every day. This is a sport. Like if Michael Jordan, which I'm not saying I'm him, but if you knew he was going to make the shot every single time, and if you knew he was going to make every game winning shot, you probably wouldn't even watch because
yeah,
you knew it was going to happen. So
yeah,
you need some spontaneity. You need some humanity in it. You need to just if you have your heart in it though, then people will recognize it. They'll be like, man, Adam was having a bad day that day. Well, you hear his voice sound like a frog. He probably didn't sleep for like 2 days. Let me keep listening.
yeah, yeah. So perfectionism, I think that a lot of people are getting to that. In my
Mm,
opinion, it's because I find that it's a poison, right? Like it,
yeah.
it really is perfectionism is a poison that
Yeah.
you're taking, and it's not necessary for you to take that. Just so you
Yeah.
know, like I'll share a funny story. I had a back in the day, if you remember Brennan Burchard,
Yeah.
he came out with that book, right? Very first book. I forgot the name of it, but I had
Hmm.
launched my book, Sell Like Crazy, back in the day. And I'm like, I went to his event and I was all excited that I got home and I saw him do this, those sticky note things. You
Yeah.
remember like that?
Yeah.
So I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, I gotta do sticky notes, but I didn't have like a whiteboard and any of that, but I did have. So you know
You're
what I
too
did,
much,
Adam?
Ash. What'd you
Yeah,
do?
I had the screen for projector screen, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had one of those because I was doing seminars back then, so
Mm,
I had that. So what I did was, I'm like, okay, so I have a iMac 9
mm,
that it's a big old computer, right? And I
mhm.
didn't have a stand or none of that. So I took iMac 9 and I put it on a filing cabinet, okay? And then I put in the back, I'm like, I'm gonna be Brandon today. So what I did was I took a whole bunch of sticky notes and I put it around the frame of that
Oh
of
my
that whole thing.
gosh. Here we
And
go.
my handwriting was so bad, right? That video, believe it or not, got me 600 sales. Like literally, people bought. That is
That's
so
the
funny.
best.
That
That's
is so
the best. And so that's the thing is like I tell people if they want to be perfect, like you better have a lot of money and you better hire somebody. And if you
yeah,
don't have a lot of money, then and you can't afford to hire somebody, then your process isn't working.
Yeah.
Now,
You
some people, there's the rare people that can be perfect and have it all, but you probably already built something. And this
yeah,
is
yeah,
probably, and podcasting is not your first thing. And maybe you have that like thing. Like there's some people out there that are really special and could do that, but I'm just not that person. So
mm,
if that's your vision, then you're probably just need to hire somebody.
yeah, yeah,
Don't
exactly.
waste your time because there's, I mean, you spend thousands to make a lot more money than that.
Yeah, yeah. And so truly, let's talk about the industry for a minute, right? Because sometimes
Mhm.
people don't have clarity around industry, and that's why they doubt. So can you let's talk about the industry, like a little bit about,
Yeah.
how many podcasts are there? What is the competition like? And more
Yeah.
importantly, what is it? What does the landscape look like
Yeah.
in today's world?
Yeah. Nothing annoys me more than when somebody's like, "Oh, it's saturated. Everybody's got a podcast, this, that, that." It's just so uninformed. There's nothing else to say. It's naive. It's just wrong. So, just to put it in context, Ash, there's over 150 million YouTube channels. There's 4 million or so podcasts. Nothing. Podcasting just started, and of that, there's only like, depending on where you get your data, 300,000 or so, whatever, give or take, episodes that are released weekly consistently. That's nothing. That's absolutely nobody is even podcasting. And most people quit by the time they get, depending on where you get your data from, 24 episodes is what I've heard. I've heard 20, I've heard 30. I mean, anywhere in that range. So most people don't even make it past that when they start it. So that being said, podcasting is like, I like to think of it as we're like in month 3 to 6 of YouTube. Now,
Oh,
that being said, people might listen to this and be like, all right, Adam, fact check me, whatever, good. And after you're done fact checking me, then come back and listen to the rest of this. The reason I believe that this is the case is because podcasting came out of radio. And in radio, it was host read ads. Now, what that is that's the host, gets on the air, reads the ad, and that's how the sponsor is happy and satisfied, right? Well, that was not that can only reward big shows historically because what major sponsor is going to go on there and sponsor a small show? We're not talking about it's just not going to happen. So that being said, dynamic advertising like what YouTube proposes, and that's basically just simply think of it this way. Back in the day on YouTube, small subscribers or small channels, even with little subscribers, could monetize their channel. That's before YouTube decided to kind of pull the rug out from everybody, all the small channels, and say you had to have X amount of subscribers and watch time and all this stuff. It didn't used to be like that. Like even small channels could be monetized. So that being said, what that meant is the pennies would come in, and that is
mhm,
something that's very motivating to small channels and to content creators, so the pennies would roll in. So now what happened is more people were attracted to the platform. There's more of a monetary opportunity. People stuck with and figured out their content and their channels, and a lot of people made a lot of money and are making a lot of money, and that's what led to a big piece of it. And it was very user friendly because you could have put up one video and the advertising runs in it automatically. And it
mm,
could, somebody might buy 100 or 200 or 500 or whatever the views are, whatever thousands or whatever the ad spend was going to be, and you don't have to worry about it as a creator. It's all integrated. You just put the video up and check a box and it's done. So now that that's available with podcasts, where even small channels can be monetized through different platforms, and the host doesn't have to read the ad, and it can be dynamic, and you can have pre-roll and mid-roll and post. And if you don't know what that is, it's okay, no big deal. You can Google it, not a big deal. But just think about it this way, and now the host doesn't have to read it. Now what happens is more small content creators will come to podcasting. There's some shows will get big, and over time I believe there's going to be, it'll go from 4 million to 10 million to 50 million to 100 million. There'll be, if we look at the entire world and think about how easy audio is, especially when you think about like countries, or excuse me, continents like Africa, or you think about even like India or other places like that, to where maybe somebody's using a phone that is not an iPhone or a Samsung, and maybe there's a different app store there that we don't even know what it is. You combine that with the concept of also how easy it is to translate content and entire shows using AI into other languages. There's going to be a billion podcasts one day. Now,
mm,
that's insane to think about, a billion podcasts today. because that's gonna be a form of communication. That's gonna be a form of documenting your history for your family. There's so many use cases. Your company, internal, external communication. There's so many different like use cases for podcasting. So considering that, there's only 4 million right now.
Mm.
We haven't even started this
We-
business, this game. The amount of money that's coming into this game hasn't even started. People are going to create generational wealth that's going to change entire lineages from podcasting.
I love that. And so basically it's almost what you're saying is podcast is such an early stage, is almost like a penny stock, or you can think of like a Bitcoin that was just got started at a penny, like literally, So that being said, I have a friend of mine, you won't believe this, Adam. I have a friend of mine, she's like, back in the day, somebody offered me a Bitcoin for $1, and they told me like buy 100 of them, and I told them no. And so so but that being said, it's the same thing, right? Like people are saying
Yeah.
no to themselves about doing podcasting. It's like,
Mm,
seriously, it costs you it's almost no money to start one. Like
yeah.
it
Yeah.
literally, what is it? As a one, two, three softwares, literally,
Yeah.
to one distribution, one recording,
Yep.
and maybe a good microphone, like $100, right?
Yeah.
I got these
Or
tools
not.
for,
I use my cell phone, remember? Or
yeah,
not. Use
yeah,
a
or
cell
not.
phone in your
Yeah,
pocket in your
yeah,
AirPods. And there's
yeah.
even free platforms. I don't
I mean,
recommend using the free ones, but there are.
yeah,
Just
there
because
are.
you don't necessarily own your data. So, a quick
Yeah.
little tip there for if somebody's trying to do it completely free. If it's completely free, there's probably something up, but you probably start one, very, very inexpensively. Use your
Yeah.
AirPods, use your phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Very simple. And then nowadays there are things called Zoomcast, like,
Yep.
or even, where you just don't have to, if you don't need any money, just start Zoom and then just start recording, right? That kind
Yep.
of a thing. So when it comes to questioning though, because I think some people spend a lot of time on questioning in terms of what should they be asking the guests, right? And what kind of question they should be framing and things.
Yeah.
So what is the mindset that goes around that, and what type of things you see common?
Yeah, I see a lot of different there's different schools of thought on this. And some people want to be like super prepared and they want to research everything, they want to know everything. Like they won't interview an author unless they read the book and they have these notes and other things. That's one type of show. It's okay. Other types of shows, like my own, it's gonna be they're gonna be shorter interviews, so like a half an hour or less. And sometimes even like if I'm doing a live interview at a conference or something else, then it might even be like 7 to 15 minutes. So even shorter. And that's because it's a live conference kind of like experience is what I'm aiming for. So there's still a little bit of energy and things that are going on there. And those are really quick. What I would say the first thing you have to decide is maybe the length of show and format. So if you know you're going to be doing an hour-long interview, then you got to do a little bit of research. You got to do a little bit of prep work there. You got to figure out some questions and a little like I don't know why more people don't do this, but the easiest way, and I think what makes for really good conversations, is to ask the guests that you've invited on to submit 2 to 3 questions that they want to be asked. And the reason you do that is because you'll know what's top of mind for them and what they actually want to talk about. Like I've had people like have where you would have never known, like somebody's coming on the show, they have a big financial background, but they actually don't even want to talk about finance. They want to talk about leadership. That was in their mind, and they just got done taking a leadership course. If I was to guess based on looking at their background and start getting into the weeds on finance issues or investing or things like that, they could do it. But was that why they come in the show, and was that where their heart was? No.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if it was, then that's the 3 questions they would have submitted. So now what happens is everybody else that books that person on their show, they don't ask questions. So they're going to give the same type of interview for them. My show's unique because and for that, in this particular example, because I got content none of them have. I can do
Mhm.
100 episodes, and if somebody doesn't ask them what they want to be asked, or just to submit for, and it doesn't mean you have to ask the question they give you, but it gives you some insight into what they're doing. You can paraphrase. You got a lot more things you can put into the interview, and also it takes a little bit of the anxiety off of the guest because they have an idea. They feel more a part of the interview and the interview process. So the interview just comes out better, in my opinion. So I tell people all the time, I'm like, if you have a problem or you're asking about like what question you should ask, then you probably, just the fact that you're asking yourself that question, you're having trouble, then you're probably need to learn by letting the guests submit some questions. And
Yeah.
based off of that, your skill over time will increase, and you'll, and one of two different things are going to happen. You're going to get really good at answering questions, or you're at the very worst case scenario, you're not going to be asking the same questions in every interview, which is amazing because then your show's not going to be boring.
Yeah.
One way, you win either way.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what I love about this is because of what people don't know, at least from my understanding,
Mm,
is that when it's a half an hour show to 1 hour show, you're looking at really about 7 to 10 questions, maybe,
mm,
like at tops, because you really think about it. Like, one question takes you 30 seconds to ask the question. It
mhm.
takes you, what, about 2 to 3 minutes to answer a good question. Like, if it's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like a question. So you really, in an hour, you're not asking more than about 7 to 10 questions. So
Mhm.
if 3 or 5 questions they give it to you,
Yeah.
you just have to say, where you, so tell me about yourself and where you're from, and
Mhm.
tell me about your backstory, and then rest of it is their questions, and you're done with the show. Like, it's literally that simple. Like, at least I
Mhm.
think of it that way, as you are feeding the information here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so from that point of view, I know that people think about this all the time, and they go, okay, now, I understand there's a big industry. I got that.
Mm,
I
mm,
understand that I got to think about my future. Like, there's a future here for sure, and I can create my future and the feeling I want to attach to that, as to
mhm.
what do I want. Some people want success, some people want to be on the stage, whatever that is, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. But you decide whatever that is. There's a future, there's a logical reason that, magic is true.
Yes.
Logic we are giving you, right? And then, of course, the science is that you get to create. So what type of science, like, what have you created over time, is doing 6,000 shows now? What have you found that's your jam, right? Like, that
Mhm.
is. And how did you come to that really conclusion that this is my style versus that person's style,
Mhm.
that kind of thing?
At this point in time, I like to think that I do every type of interview first off. So I do longer interviews. I do interviews in front of audiences. I do panels. I do full like hundreds of people in the audience. I do remote interviews. I do audio only interviews. I do live streaming interviews. For me, it's the craft of just making the connection with the guest. Like,
Mm.
that's my aim and my goal. Like, I wanna make a connection with the guest, and I wanna create something that, and I don't mean like I'm asking random weird questions. I just mean like I wanna pull a piece of the heart of the guest so that we create something that's different. I want them to feel a connection, and if we can feel that connection, then I feel that the audience can too. And so I'll give you an example of one way I've done that in the past. And I still remember this particular interview. I'm interviewing the like chief economist for this big organization called the Milken Institute. And so this guy's like heavy PhDs, everything, like you name it, right? And so it's me. I did an interview with him. Bloomberg did an interview with him, like Yahoo Finance. Like, this is one of those like big financial type conferences, right? So all the big dogs are there. And little baby mission matters. I punch above my weight over here, Ash. I work hard. So I'm in the room and I do my interview, and I'm looking at it, and I knew where everybody was going to go. Everybody was going to ask, what's up with the Fed? What's coming next with this? What's going to happen with inflation? All these things. And I'm like, my curiosity was like, I wonder how he even got involved with Michael Milken, who's the namesake of the conference, who started. And I'm like, where did this even begin? So I'm like, so that was the question I asked him to open with. I said, all right, so how'd you get involved with Michael Milken? When did you first learn about him? Like, how'd you know this was going to be, someone you could follow? And he gives me this story. He's like, it was when I was way younger. And I still remember when he was raising money to fund this idea. And he's like, and everybody said he was crazy. Like, who's going to ever believe in or buy or want to watch a 24-hour news channel? And he's like, but I knew it was right. And that's why we have CNN. So me to get that type of story, which of course he told it more eloquently and it's his story, so there's a lot more to it, but that's the fast version of it. For me to get that, nobody else in that room has that. Nobody else has that story. And that's something that's going to be evergreen. That's something that when that gentleman's no longer on this planet, his great grandkids might be watching it, be like, wow, that was my great grandpa. Look at that. He was doing this and this and that. So I'm looking to try to make a different connection. That's my jam. The format, I'm an entertainer. It doesn't matter. Like you put me on a stage, you done well. At this point, I am. After 9 years in this business, I didn't start that way. My first show, I was so scared just to give you some ideas here, because I don't want people to watch this and think, oh, he can do it, I can't. My first show, I was so scared, Ash, I didn't even use my real name on the show because I was
Oh.
deathly terrified that somebody would find out I had a show. For my first, I didn't go on camera or on video like what we're doing right now until after 1,500 interviews. That's 1,500. Why? Because man, you put a camera on me, I forget how to say my name. I just went blank. I don't know what it was. That was something I had to get over. First time I did an in-person interview with somebody, I was already at over 3,000 interviews. Over 3,000 interviews before my first in-person interview. And after I did that interview, the woman that was running the camera, she comes up to me kind of politely. She's like, "Hey, Adam, you got to look at the camera. You didn't do your intro." And I'm like, oh, I forgot. I just started having a conversation. I didn't know what I was doing then either. First time I did an on-stage interview was in front of like 100 people, and I forgot there was an audience there. And I'm like, I forgot to address the crowd. I was just hanging out like nobody was there, and it felt like there was a cold wall between me and the audience because I forgot they were there. I thought I was still in my studio. And the producer comes up to me and they're like, "Hey, Adam, there's an audience here. Can you at least say hi to them?" I'm like, "Oh, my bad. I'm sorry." So I give you that story because there's progress and there's progression, and everybody, if you're watching this, if you could do a Zoom call right now and just be on Zoom and you can say your name, you're further ahead than I was.
Mm.
So that's something to consider. But it just comes down to now, okay, you started and you're already further ahead than I was. Now the question is just how far do you want to go, and what's the plan?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. So basically you created your own comfort. You created your own, like that flow inside of you, the magic I call it, right? I mean the
Mm,
science I call it, right? So the magic was there. You had the spark that podcasting or the media is kind of like where you want to go. You had that in you somewhere alongside between financial services and this is sparked for you. You got that piece, you got the logical piece because obviously you know the
mhm.
numbers about podcasting and things like that, and then you created your own science. Yes, you struggled in the beginning, but as long as you have your vision of where
Yeah.
you want to really go and the feeling you want to accomplish at the end, you were able to kind of like muster through that and get to where you are today, right?
Mhm.
Would you say, right?
And
um
we're just starting, and I don't mean that like being falsely humble. Sure, I built a business. Sure, we do. I live, and this feeds myself, and and a lot of people around me, and my employees. Sure, yes, but I still have context. The greats in this business, 30, 40 years they're in the business. Some of them, their biggest breaks don't even come until after they're 30 years in the business. I'm
yeah.
only 9 years in, so I'm like, there's no pressure. I'm like in sixth grade right now.
You
Maybe so. I'm in middle school, man, and I'm having
yeah,
fun. And just the fact that anybody wants to listen or cares, I'm so appreciative of, because I'm still
yeah.
a baby.
Yeah. And I would say I am. I just born yesterday. That's why.
You're a newborn Ash. I don't
I'm
know,
a
man.
newborn.
That's funny.
So that
That's
means,
awesome. Well, hey,
uh,
it's a rebirth, man. It's all good.
yeah. I just got. I just
Your
got.
wife's gonna be like, "What is he talking about in there?" Somebody's a newborn. He's talking to some dude.
Yeah, my birthday was a couple of days ago, so it's perfect. I could say that.
Oh man, Benjamin Button over here.
uh, so much fun. And those of you are listening, I want to let you know you can gain so much knowledge. You can make such a good friends, right? I mean, I found out about your what is the PodCon you're gonna do
Mhm.
right in November.
Yep.
I want to be there. Like honestly, like I at this point, like I didn't know who you were until
Yeah.
we met in the pre-interview. But I thought I was so excited. I'm like, oh my god, I'm meeting the guy, founder of podcast. So you think about like who you get to meet and the impact you
Hmm.
get to make, because I don't know what kind of impact this is gonna create. I just know that we are having a really good bonding and great conversation, and
Hmm.
I would like to pay it forward, like what you're saying, pay it forward to somebody, and I would like to do that. I mean, that's
Yeah.
kind of like my mission, right? So I love this conversation, Adam, and I know we can go on for a long time, but those of you who are looking to get a podcasting, I want to let you know that based on everything that I know, I'm
Mm.
only been doing it for a month and a half. I'm nowhere close to 9 years, and I'm nowhere close to 6,000 interviews. Okay, I think I've got like 24 interviews, 25 interviews under my belt right now.
That's awesome, man. That's congrats. That's not an only. That's amazing. Most people don't make it that far. That's great.
Yeah, thank you so much for that.
That's
And
just
I
the
can
truth. That's the numbers, by the way. That's not my opinion. So congrats. That is an accomplishment. And so we got to celebrate those.
thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Right, and it's, thinking of celebration, Adam. Just want to let you know, I do this thing called daily wealth manifestation. I don't know if I don't know if you know about that, but I
Hmm.
would love for those of you who are listening. I want you to know that daily wealth manifestation is designed to, if you're struggling, you're having inner struggles, right? I am certified in multiple things, but one of the things I'm certified in is Vedic science and neuro linguistic programming. So I go into your subconscious programming, and I help you create those breakthroughs. Then we get you balanced in 5 areas of life: in health, relationship, business, finance, and spirituality. And at the end, Adam, we do this thing called celebrations every day. So you talk about
Mm,
celebrations, right? We celebrate in the morning and we celebrate at night. And my
mm,
friend, I tell you, it's one of the best things ever. And anybody who's listening, you want to be as a special thank you for thank you, Adam, for you, right?
yeah.
I'm happy to give out 30 days of absolutely no charge to anybody who wants to come on. If you are
Mm,
from Adam's tribe, just hit me up. I'll be
yeah.
more than happy to invite you in. Adam, I want to thank you for this is my way of saying thank you
Yeah.
for you being here. Okay, and I would love for people to know, how do they get in touch with you as well,
Yeah.
because I know there's a lot more. We can go on for hours on
Yeah. Yeah.
podcasting.
Yeah.
But I would love for people to know how they get in touch with you.
Yeah, it's super easy, really. Just go on Instagram, ask Adam Torres. There's a link there to my link tree, and you can see, free newsletters, free ebooks. I mean, we give out more free content than I argue any other company of our size on the planet. So you don't believe me? Just go check it out, and just go to Ask Adam Torres. And if you have a podcast idea or show idea, shoot me a DM. Love to hear about it. On the back end, we help people launch podcasts. Of course, we have a whole department for that. And if you have a book idea, anything else like that, shoot me a DM. I do check my personal Instagram, and then there's also the business one and other stuff there. But really, just connect with me over at Ask Adam Torres on Instagram.
I love that, Adam. So thank you so much for that, my friend. And those of you who are listening, I want to let you know I love you guys very, very much, and that's why I did this today. I've been so excited since I spoke to you, Adam. I was like totally stoked. I told my wife we had to go somewhere today because my dad had a had to take a shot in the
Mm,
base of his spine, because he's having some nerve issues on the
mhm.
leg. So, and we had to take the drop off the car, and then my dad's like, so I'm like, okay. So the car was at the doctor's office, and my wife took him home,
Yeah.
and now we had to take the car to his house, literally this afternoon.
Oh
And
my God.
I wasn't expecting that. I thought they were just gonna go for a visit, but
Yeah.
they actually ended up giving him a shot. So I'm like,
Oh
oh
wow.
shoot. So I'm running around. I told my wife, I said, okay, we gotta make this quick because I gotta get back like as soon as possible, right? Uh,
Man, you better chill out. You're gonna don't be getting me in trouble. I ain't
yeah.
trying to get in trouble over here now with the
No,
wife.
no, my friend, you're not getting in trouble whatsoever. But it was it
Funny.
was funny because she's like, I went to my dad and I said, okay,
Hmm.
how you doing? And he's like, I'm doing fine, great. I turned back around. He's like, my mom's like, aren't you gonna stay? I'm like, no, not today. Goodbye. Yeah, no,
It's awesome, man. Well,
that was
hey,
cool, buddy.
that's
But
a story. Thank you. That's a memory.
yeah. So I want to say thank you so much for that. I really
Yeah.
appreciate you and my friends. And those of you listening, it is my wish to the universe that it may give you all the health, wealth, and happiness that you deserve. Thank you for being part of Financial Chakras. abundance through alignment. It is
Mm.
truly time for you to get that abundance and align yourself in the right way. You
Yeah.
can do so many things when you have the abundance that you deserve, and you can attract it just by being in a service mode. All you have to
Mm.
do is decide on the end feeling that you want to have. And that end feeling, it could be success, it could be anything else. But if you come from a place of service, making an impact or something of that nature, you think about your particular end feeling, and uh, create a vibrational frequency that is so high that nobody can match it. You can have any type of abundance that you deserve. Okay, my friend.
Mm.
That is my message for today. And Adam, and those of you, I just want to say thank you, and please visit, my website as well, financialchakras.com. For this episode, it is going to be on my website. It is going to be on YouTube and all the other places as well. So, Adam, I would love for them to know what is your website that they can visit, my friend, so they can get in touch with you as well, on top
Yep.
of Instagram for sure.
Hmm. So Instagram, you'll see it. Just go to Ask Adam Torres, and then that's going to link to the link tree. That'll take you to missionmatters.com. That'll take you to a newsletter. That'll take you to a bunch of free books, free content, you name it. But Instagram will take you there. Ask Adam Torres, which will lead you to missionmatters.com all day long.
Okay, my friend. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Okay. Thank you.